All right, check. Back in business. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to Noxious Masculinity. Where we're helping the battle of sexes by, changing some young men into real men. And as we continue on with some of the things that we've been talking about, I kind of want to move into, some tips for a successful relationship. And I think that the first step that you have to realize is that you have to find out what is it that's important to you, and what is important to you in a woman. And beyond that, you have to realize if you actually want a relationship, is a relationship something that's important to you? And I personally think that in order for a man to truly become the greatest version of himself, a relationship has to be something that is not necessarily his main focus in life, but it definitely needs to be a priority in his life. And being able to understand that the greatest version of you comes from these relationships. These relationships are what show you and put a mirror to your face or to your spirit of where you need to be better at and where you are really good at. And I think relationships are the ultimate stare in the mirror for the self and the soul. And so realizing that a relationship is something that you do want, once you get to that point, then you have to say to yourself, do you just want to have a relationship, or do you want to have a successful relationship? And a lot of times as young men, we tend to see women as sexual partners, and we tend to use relationships as ways of obtaining sex and having somebody around that makes us feel good. But these things don't necessarily translate into successful relationships. And as you begin to mature in life, you realize that just having a bunch of relationships is okay when you're learning in life, but then you get to a stage where you're willing and you're ready to grow and you want things to be successful. Uh, if you're anything like most men in the world, you want to be good at everything that you do. And your relationship shouldn't be something that isn't the same as in everything else that you do in life. You should want to be successful at whatever it is that you choose to do with your time and while you're here on earth. And so, a key to being able to have a successful relationship starts with the self, and being able to have self awareness and know who you are and what type of man you are and what it is that you want out of life. Uh, a lot of times when relationships die out is because they don't have power. And I'm using this metaphorically speaking, but in order to have power in the relationship and for their relationship to be able to be electrified, to be able to go about and do things without the relationship dying, you need to be able to have your reciprocal, or your polar opposite of whom you are. And the only way to be able to recognize that is you have to have some self-awareness of who and what you are as a man. And so there's three types of men that are in the world. And this is just on a surface basic level, but most men don't understand what type of man they are. They just think I'm a man and then this is how it is. And when you realize and you grow in life, you start to understand yourself a little more, hopefully. um, you'll notice different things about yourself that become important to you, or that make your life feel like they're worth their while. And 10% of these men are what we would say feminine based masculine, meaning love and the flow of their relationship and the people around them. Um, these type of energies are what's important to them. These purposes in lives are what's important to them. These are the things that they hold high in category to them, making sure everybody around them is happy, making sure the flow of love is going on, and having a family. And this is where they get their purpose. There's another 10% of men who are what they would say neutral masculine, meaning they have a bit of, the feminine energy of relationships and love and all of these things being the very high part of their list or the purpose part of their life that enlivens them. But they also have masculine qualities as well. And so the things that drive them are both feminine energies and both masculine energies. But today, what we're going to be talking about is the 80% of men, which are masculine energy. And these are men who are usually purpose driven by what they give to the world and what it is that they're going to leave behind to the world. And not saying that relationship isn't important to them, but what's of most importance to them is their gift to the world. And most men fall under this category. And if you do fall under this category, then you need to find a more feminine energy woman, a woman that falls under the mainly feminine aspects of life to balance out yourself. If you're part of that 10% who is a feminine energy masculine, then you need to find a more masculine based feminine energy to balance you out. And then a neutral person, then you need to find somebody who's neutral. And it's usually harder when you're neutral because then you need to find somebody who balances you out in all of the opposite areas of your feminine and masculine energy. So to make things easier, we'll be talking about the 80%, which is you need to find a woman that is and has and abides in her feminine quality. And this comes from understanding and learning what it means to be a feminine and taking time out of your life to learn about the feminine. As you grow, you'll learn about yourself, but you need to also learn about your opposite. And that comes from your own personal studies and your own personal work. And maybe from following this channel as well, I can help you with those things. But a lot of times, what happens in relationships that kill the power in the relationship is a false neutralization of the relationship, meaning you're actually a masculine energy, but you try to act more like a feminine energy, or you're actually a feminine energy, but you try to be more masculine. And then you do the same thing to your partner where she's more feminine, but you want her to be masculine, and vice versa. And what happens is this depolarization that is happening not only just within your relationship, but it's happening within life, where we're making everyone become neutralized, where you're not one thing or the other. You can be and you can flow in between these different energies. And I think that that is what is causing a lot of relationships to not be successful. And so if some of your relationships haven't been successful, excuse me, there's a good chance that it came from the depolarization of your relationship, where your relationship lost that energy that it had in the beginning because of a bunch of different things that have occurred to make that relationship become non-energetic. The polar opposites that created the power are gone. And I like to use batteries as an example of what a relationship should have and why relationships need to be polarized is because it's like a battery where you have a positive energy and you have a negative energy. And if you have these two forces that come together and you put it into a toy, it enlivens that toy. It is now able to be animated. And in your relationship, if you have two positive energy or you have two negative energy, your relationship, metaphorically speaking, being that toy, is unable to be animated because there is no power and there's no source that this power comes from. All power comes from polarization. If you look up in the sky, there's a sun, there's a moon, there's a ground, there's a sky. There's always a polarization in life that creates this energy, which is life. And so having, your polarization be destroyed and a neutralization of your relationship is usually the main killer of relationship. And another aspect that, falls under this neutralization or the false neutralization of your relationship is a lot of times as men, we look for women to be our everything, meaning you want a woman, who is your business partner, your friend, your mother, your lover, and you need her to be all of these different aspects for you. And what ends up happening is you steal from her femininity by basically needing all of these different aspects from her. And you pull away from the very qualities that she brings. And a lot of times that comes from not understanding the feminine and also not understanding yourself and what type of man you are. So, as a masculine man, you cannot have your woman be your everything. The more that you seek of a woman who gives you everything, the less you'll get of anything. And so, what you have to start um, doing is having purpose behind your intimacy in your relationship. When you're meeting a woman and you're feeling her out and you're realizing, okay, I'm this type of man, I'm a masculine man, and what um, enlivens me is a more feminine woman. So now you found a more feminine woman. Now you need to realize what is the purpose of your intimacy. Do you want somebody who is just your business? Do you want somebody who's a lover? Do you want somebody who's a mother? And you have to realize that for yourself. No one can tell you what's important to you in a relationship. You have to learn that for yourself, what is important to you. But if you don't know what's important in your intimacy and the purpose of your intimacy, everything in your life should have a reason for being there beyond just having sex, or maybe just having sex, what you want out of your relationship. But you have to know this for yourself in order to be able to have a successful one. And you don't want to squash your woman's femininity by, negating her to all of these different roles. She's a housewife, she's your business partner, she's your lover, she's your friend, she's your chauffeur, she's your, the person who cleans up your house. You got to figure out if domestic duty is something that you were looking for in your relationship or a sexual consort is something that you are looking for in your. I personally think that relationships become more successful when they are built on two foundations. And I think that these foundations are what move forward a relationship to be more healthy. The first aspect is spiritual awakening. Um, when you get beyond the physical, beyond what she looks like and what everybody thinks of her, when you look at her beyond her flesh and you begin to look at her soul and spirit, and that becomes important to you, and serving that is important to you, I think that this is when you start taking the relationship to the next level. And her spiritual awakening should be your main focus. To serve her and to serve her with unwavering love, to have her soul be enlightened throughout her time with you. This should be one of the main focuses of your relationship. And the second one is sexual transmission. Um, Sex is a very powerful tool. Sometimes, as men, we misinterpret the language of sex and we look at sex as just a way to feel good. But sexual transmission is also a transmission of energy. And you live in one another when you're able to transfer these different energies, you transferring your masculine energy to her transferring her feminine energy to you through bodily transmissions, usually via sex. But you want your love and your passion to be expressed through these sexual transmissions. And this is why having these polarities are necessary, because you never want to lose this sense of attraction to one another. And when you're able to be attracted in and serve each other's souls, not only you to her, but her to you, and your spiritual awakening, usually that transfers into the sexual transmission because then as you become connected solely, then you want to become connected bodily. And when you're able to align all of your activities in your relationship based upon these very things, then I think that you're able to have a more successful relationship. So, if you want a housewife, but you both serve each other's spiritual enlightenment and you never squash each other's duties to just these duties of being at home and cleaning up and taking care of the kids and all that, and then you come home and then you want to talk about work when she wants a hug and all of these misconceptions of each other. You don't want to put these duties into just basically just making them duty. You want to align all of what it is that you are looking for around the activity of spiritual awakening and sexual transmission. And usually sexual transmission is just your body's language of communicating and expressing your love for the soul that is in that person that you are here to help awaken. And so let's say, as a masculine man, you want to be a provider. You want a woman who takes care of the things that you are unable to have the time to take care of. Never forget that, okay, yes, we both have our roles to play, but every activity that we do, we align it with our, central priorities, which is our spiritual awakening and sexual transmission. And that's basically your expression of love. And when you're able to do this and maintain the thing, and trust me, it's easier said than done. These are the things that you want to foundate your relationship on to have a successful one. And when you do foundate your relationship on these things, it usually leads to a more successful relationship. And if these things come to an end, that doesn't mean that the relationship wasn't successful. But in the midst of it, it will be easier for you to know that the relationship was successful and not take things a bad way when you know that you served her spirit, you wanted to enlighten her life's purpose, and you express your love in multiple ways of being able to express your love, especially through communicating it through bodily transmission. Then you're able to say, okay, this was a successful relationship, even if it comes to an end. And hopefully it doesn't come to an end. You can continue us on being successful in growing and watering each other's spirit and giving each other energy through the body language love. So these are some of my tips that I have for having a successful relationship. A lot of times, you don't have a successful relationship because one, you don't plan on having a successful relationship. It's not a purpose for you. And then two, you don't know who you are as a man. You don't know if you're a masculine man, a feminine man, or a neutral man. And you also end up, making your relationship become neutralized by you trying to be things that you're not, and your woman, and trying to make your woman become things that she's not, and you guys become neutralized. And this is where you start to look outside of the relationship to find what it is that enlivens you, which is usually your polarity. And we sometimes throughout the relationships, and most times you'll see in marriages where we squash the feminine into a role, and vice versa, the feminine squashes the man into a role, and we don't allow for our partners to be the greatest versions of themselves because we put them in these roles and we expect them to be these roles and not appreciate the feminine or the masculine. And as a masculine, you should learn to appreciate the feminine by getting to know the feminine and what it is that that moves the feminine. And so that is something that you have to do within yourself, and it has to be a priority for you. It has to be something that you want to learn about. You cannot go through life only looking to learn about yourself. That is why there's 7 billion people on the planet. And yeah, successful relationships are based on two aspects: sexual transmission and spiritual awakening. first spiritual awakening and then sexual transmission. You're serving each other's spirit. It's much easier for you to be able to move forward. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you learned something from it. I'll definitely keep going on with some more things in the future about this topic on how to have a successful relationship and learning what's important in a woman and learning about yourself and how to continuously construct this successful relationship that you're looking. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.